We've got agriculture. And I think that the plan was, isn't it, Senator, that we're just going to do the 16 budget?
Yeah, that's what
I understood, that we're just working on the 16 budget.
Hit that volume up button. You're not being heard.
What?
Volume up right there. There you go.
Can y'all hear me now? Okay. What?
Table mic. There we go.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Chairman, good to see y'all this morning, and thank y'all for the chance to be with you. Ours is quite brief. We have really some just minor adjustments in some of our pass-through dollars that dealing with some of our attached agencies that y'all see, and those are pretty minor adjustments there. I do want to thank the Governor for including some typical on the bond packages. We do have a little bit of an ask there if y'all have any leeway moving forward. But first of all, on the vehicle side, I don't know if we're any different than any other state agency, but I know that we're an aging state agency when it comes to vehicles, and we have a lot of people on the road. I just got out of at the Georgia Fruit and Vegetable Growers meeting in Savannah. Saturday was a week ago. I was thankful to be Representative Taxman. I was thankful to be in Jason Deal's 2006 Ford Taurus with 239,000 miles on it, but because it got us where we needed to go. But we have a lot of those, and so we have got $500,000 for vehicles. A little flexibility we're going to ask you for. The language comes out and says for 25 vehicles, and if we can do a better job of bargaining, I'd kind of like to have some flexibility. Why we don't need to spend all that on if we can get 28 for the same price. I would appreciate if we could have some consideration in the language to allow us to do so. 22% of our fleet is over the 175,000 mile DOAS recommendation, and then 11% of our fleet's over 200,000. So it's we've still got a little work to do, but gradually y'all gave us some help last year, and we appreciate it, and hopefully this will be able to be handled this year as well.
Can you when you say 22% and this percent, can you tell us the number of cars we're talking about?
Yes, ma'am. 22 at that kind of 53 of our fleet have over 175,000 miles. And members of the committee, the other thing where we come to supplemental and always talk about bonds, of course this is bonds, not cash, is we usually have a pretty attractive bond package, and that typically deals with our markets. There's $500,000 that is for maintenance and repair, and the reason there's not a big package there this time is simply because y'all did $9 million last year primarily for the Atlanta market, and we're just now beginning that construction process. So we didn't come back to you with a long list for the markets because it's kind of hard to get big package after big package when you hadn't started the first one. So, but all that's moving along fine. I think you're going to be very proud of what takes place at the Atlanta market. But there's 500,000 there. We had asked for $1 million because from a maintenance and operation, that's really what it takes. So if there's any leeway moving through the process, we would appreciate consideration. And also, last kind of wrap up. We had a discovery that this is one of those things. I wish I'd been smart enough to think about this 3 or 4 years ago, but we got a real smart CFO, and she thought of it this year, which is a good thing. We've always been in the tunnel of that bonds for the Department of Agriculture mean the markets, and when we have a $100,000 piece of laboratory equipment in Tifton in the seed lab go down, we've cash flowed that. And really, those capital investments ought to be bonded. That's the way we do, and I don't know why they never did, and I don't know why. I can't tell you why I hadn't thought of this in the last 3 or 4 years, but we would just simply ask you if we've talked both chairmen, if we could just have a flexibility in our bond language that would allow us to manage our business, whether it's maintenance and repair of the market or these major equipment purchases. That would be very helpful to our business model. So as we go forward, that we'd ask you to help us in that arena. But other than that, y'all, that's all I have, Madam Chair, about the supplemental.
Do I have any questions before he goes on with something else? Any questions? No questions.
Thank
Go
you,
ahead.
ma'am.
All
I
right.
appreciate it.
Yes, I knew you want to discuss another
May
problem.
I take just a couple of minutes and give y'all a quick update? If some of you, if you're able to come to Rural Caucus, we'll go a little more in depth on that at lunch today, but in case I missed some of you, I did want you to know this. We, of course, the major preparation and more House members than members of the Senate. We've probably warned y'all out about avian influenza at several of the meetings, but it's just that important. I do want to report to you that last week there was an outbreak of H7N8 in Du Bois County, Indiana. It's been thus far it's been contained. There've been no new premises. There are 10 premises affected. It's in a very heavily concentrated area where there's egg production and turkey production. Thus far, only one of the premises has had anything to do with eggs. The others have been turkeys. Most of them are older turkeys, so it's like 140-day-old turkeys, and that's a. But anyway, there's one. What makes this different than what we've talked to you about in the past? The H5N2 outbreak that was in Iowa and Minnesota last year that was so devastating. This is H7N8, so it's generally a virus that is a low pathogenic, not high pathogenic. But this is a virus that mutates very quickly. It was probably present in the turkeys as low path, and somewhere mutated to high path. That's what's confounded some of the biosecurity issues because everybody's at a very heightened state of alert right now, and I think doing a good job. But thus far, Indiana's responded very well. USDA's responded very well. We are in their hip pocket, literally, as far as staying abreast of what's going on. But here's the point for all of us. We say it's Indiana, but the distance from Du Bois County, Indiana to Dalton, Georgia is the same distance from Dalton, Georgia to Valdosta. And so we can't just say it's up in Indiana. It's horrifying prospect, but I can continue to report to you we're very well prepared. And I'm real proud of our team. Y'all should be too. And we've thus far have not had to really. We've had a little bit of outlay of some cash getting ready, but nothing that should alarm the budget process thus far. But if you'd like to, if anybody's got a quick question, I'll be happy to take it. But otherwise, we'll do a little more in depth at Rural Caucus at lunch today.
Any questions?
Mr. I'm grateful to be
Yes,
on this pickup. What is the measures that you actually take to, bird flies this way and so much population down here, what are the practical?
Okay, yeah, and that's where we're trying. We're from the whole communication standpoint on this, we have been so heavy since July from backyard flocks to commercial flocks to trainings for growers. The integrators working hand in hand with their producers. We worked with Representative Maureen and did a outreach to the Latino community back in September. We've converted educational materials into 6 different languages. So what's in that is that biosecurity starts. You have to assume that everywhere you go that the presence of the virus is already there. So that means separate sets of boots for every house. It means practicing, foot washes, those kinds of things, not allowing any visitors on your farm, having controlled access, and just not right down to the point where there's a lot of avid duck hunters that are poultry growers that their integrators told them this year that have a good time, you're staying at home. And it's just that potential, because if you guard that facility, we guard our broiler house or our layer houses as if everything inside is clean and everything outside is clean. You treat it as a clean room, then we have a really good chance of knocking this down. But what happens if you get it? There's an immediate 2-mile and 6-mile, 6-mile radius that's drawn around the facility. We begin immediate permitted movement of everything in and out of that control zone. Even though there's one, for instance, there was 4 houses at the first turkey operation last week. Only one had clinical signs. One house had clinical signs, but all 4 houses were depopulated.
And you've got the resources to kind of be prepared for that tactical response.
We rely heavily on the federal government in that area. And then, of course, from a standpoint of our producers, that's what we try to remind people all. It is about the companies and the jobs, but it's about the farm families that are associated with poultry production in Georgia. There's an indemnity program on the value of the birds that the federal government underwrites as well, but there's no income replacement. And so, some of the places in Iowa were down 6 months, and that's one of the economic pressures that we could possibly face. And what's rural Georgia going to do? There are banks that already have in place, have been discussing, interest forgiveness for a year, those kinds of things, just in case we find ourselves in the shocking situation that they had in the Midwest. But hopefully our preparation and hopefully our pretty rich tradition of biosecurity and wonderful lab system that y'all help provide, and professionals and an industry that works hand in hand with farm organizations and with us, I think we're poised to do well, but we're still boldly asking the Lord just to deliver Georgia. That'd be the best solution.
Make sure Cheddar's got plenty of chickens.
Thank you so much. Any other questions?
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. We have next. Soil and water. Soil and water.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
It says soil and water's on, we're trying to see what page this is
I think on the House tracking sheet, it is on page 14.
We're using the...
oh, I'm sorry. On the governor's, it is on page 62.
62.
Bottom of 62, yes, ma'am.
Okay, 62. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I'm Brent Dykes, Executive Director of the Georgia Soil and Water Commission, here today to talk about the amended fiscal year 16 budget. As you remember from last session, House Bill 397 was passed, which changed several things with the agency. We have a new state board as of back in April of this year, or last year, 2015. We also now administratively attached to the Department of Agriculture. That's been a smooth transition. The Commissioner and his staff have worked well with us, and we're glad to be a part of them, and things seem to be working well out in the field also. And our manual for erosion control has been approved by the Erosion and Control Overview Council for the 2016 edition. So we've moved forward with all those requirements as House Bill 397 required. A couple things the agency continues to work on is watershed dam rehabilitation, which are things that we'll talk about in the big budget. There's a bond package related to that. Our agricultural water metering program, irrigation testing on systems across the state for irrigation efficiency. erosion control education and certification that we've been doing training on, and also our soil and water conservation districts. I'm going to ask Dave Eigenberg, our Deputy Director, to pass around a handout. Last session in the fiscal year 16 budget, the budget provided additional funding to soil and water conservation districts. The handout that you're receiving is a summary of the activities that the 40 soil and water conservation districts are working on with the increased funding that was made available. Districts continue to work in their local communities doing local soil and water activities, working on school projects, demonstrations for farmers. Some are even considering hiring staff at the local level, part-time, watershed maintenance repairs, and also training for the district supervisors. But the map on the front depicts the 40 conservation districts, then on the back, listed by district on your left, are the type of activities that they're working on. So we're proud to see the activities that districts are working on, and I know that if they were here today, they would say thank you for the additional funding that had been provided to them. We have 5 regional offices across the state that support these 40 conservation districts. Each of those offices have at least 6 conservation districts that they work with, upwards of 10 districts per office. So those are the activities that soil and water districts are working on. In the amended budget, there's only one change, one minor change, addition of $494 regarding reporting required by the Affordable Care Act, and that's the only change for the agency proposed funding-wise in the amended year, Madam Chair and Mr. Chairman. If there's any question, I'll be glad to answer.
Do I have any questions? Any questions? Don't see any questions. What about you, Mr. Chairman?
No questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir.
Forestry. Let's see. Forestry is on page 114.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Committee. I'm Robert Ferris, State Forester and Director of the Georgia Forestry Commission. And for those that may not be aware, Georgia Forestry Commission is a customer-focused agency. And our vision is to ensure that Georgia maintains healthy, sustainable forests, providing Georgia citizens with clean air, clean water, and abundant forest products. We do that with 572 GFC professionals located in 109 offices across the state, and I appreciate the opportunity to review the Governor's and GFC's FY16 amended budget recommendations. And if I may, I'd like to start by providing some updates from this time last year when General Assembly passed the FY16 budget. I have to start by thanking the House and the Senate for their addition of pay parity adjustments to the GFC budget last year. As a little bit of a reminder or refresher, we did a compensation study with the private consulting firm. House Budget Office, thank you Tracy, did a study and survey, and also HRA in the Governor's office did a study. And we went to target trying to get all of our folks up to 80 to 85% of market average salaries. With y'all's help, we were successful in that. All of our field level fire control employees are now at least at 85% of market salary average. In addition, the GFC has established a career development increment program that is helping our folks out with that. We do still struggle to compete with private and other employees with pay rates in this improving economy, and with the private sector seeking the skill sets that our GFC employees have. So that's a bit of a challenge still. But I think we still have yet to see the full impacts of the pay parity adjustments in the development of our CDI program, and most certainly the Governor's 3% recruitment and retention proposal for FY17 will further help us in that field. A couple of metrics I'd like to share with that. A little over 2 years ago, when we were addressing the concern of employee retention with this committee, we had 54 vacancies that we were struggling to fill, 54 ranger vacancies. Year to date, looking at this year, as of December, we had 4 ranger vacancies that we're attempting to fill. Positive movement in that direction. Also, year to date in FY15, July to January, we had experienced 18 ranger resignations. This year in FY16, we've had 12 ranger resignations. So we've seen a 33% improvement there. So again, thank y'all for your assistance with that. Quick update on fires. We've broken decades-old fire records, 5 of the last 8 years now. The 2 worst seasons in 7 and 11. The lowest seasons, as far as acres lost and numbers of fires, in 10, 14, and 15, and I'm very pleased to advise that we're working on another record-breaking season this year for FY16 with low fire numbers. Unfortunately, at some point, we think that's going to change with this wide variability in weather. This summer, the Northwest has not done too well. We sent 150 of our wildland firefighters out to California, Alaska, and Oregon to help put out fires. If you remember, in 7 and 11, those states sent 3,000 firefighters to Georgia. This past year, OPB did a zero-based budget review on our reforestation program and came back with no recommended fiscal changes to that program. As a reminder, there are no state tax dollars or appropriations go into our reforestation program, but we add millions of dollars through our tree improvement program to Georgia and Georgia citizens, with 30 to 54% increased volume yields with the seedlings that we produce through tree breeding. Matter of fact, North Carolina State Tree Improvement Co-op in their annual report this past year, this summer, advised that our breeding center at Arrowhead, the GFC Breeding Center, is adding $113 million in net present value to Georgia and Georgia citizens and landowners. Quick update on a rural fire defense program. Madam Chair, 3 years ago, you strongly encouraged to grow our firefighter program, procuring federal excess equipment. To date now, we've procured $48 million in equipment that has come to the state and out to the rural fire departments out there. We're one of the leading states in the country now with that. And to bring us real up to date on that, y'all have seen the weather forecast for North Georgia today. We've procured 12 tankers through that program at no cost, and our fab shop is outfitted and plumbed those tankers so that they can apply brine to our road systems and also fight fire. So wanted to let you know that. The governor's FY16 amended budget recs are best summarized on page 114. Nutshell, not much in the way of changes there, with the exception of the addition of $7,093 to our admin budget to increase funds for Teamworks to comply with new IRS reporting requirements. In sum, that's my report on the FY16, and again, I want to thank this committee for their support of forestry.
I had one question. Now, in the bond program we have, is it the 16, the supplemental, the 2 planes?
And that's FY17.
17. Okay, I couldn't remember where it was. Thank you, and thank you for the job y'all are doing.
Thank you.
And another thing too, I think y'all have also secured things for different towns and municipalities through your for federal surplus things.
Oh yes, ma'am. Like I said, over $48 million worth of equipment now in 863 rural fire departments across the state.
Any questions? Thank you for the job you're doing, and I'm sure if the road's ice over, we're going to be glad y'all got those 8 trucks. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
I had one other thing for the commissioner, for Commissioner Black. Is Sam here?
Right here.
Oh, Sam. We've talked about, we have a real problem in this state with wild hogs. And I have asked Sam Watson, I know you had some suggestions and sent us some information of something we could do to prevent this. And I appreciate the program you started where you could hunt wild hogs, but I don't think we had too many people wanting to let their, strangers come on their land, and for one thing or another. I don't know what happened. It was a good idea, a good program, but it just didn't go. But we've got...
in the laboratory, the application was not.
we have got to do something about the destruction that wild hogs are causing to our agricultural land. So I've asked Sam from the House to work with you, and I'm sure y'all have somebody from the Senate and Agriculture that would like to work with Sam, and let's try to see what we can do to work out a program about wild hogs and the destruction they're causing. And maybe we can, in rural caucus, we can have somebody talk about that one day. And Sam, I say Sam, Representative Watson, excuse me. He's just Sam to me. And everybody back home too. Commissioner, what do you, Mr. Chairman, what do
I'm doing my part. About a month ago, I shot one standing in my dining room. I killed one in my backyard, so I'm doing what I can to help.
Was the hog in your dining room?
No, I was standing in the dining room. The hog was in the backyard.
Well, I didn't realize that they'd gotten this far north.
Oh, we got a lot of hogs.
Okay. I just hear, my son complaining about how they can. No, that's a deer. I forgot that. That was the deer that he complains about. Any other questions? Thank you, and thank y'all for the job y'all are doing. And we meet this afternoon in
506.
506. We'll meet this afternoon at 506. And we'll probably have some tracking sheets for that, because there were just very little changes in this, so we didn't do any tracking sheets. There were so few changes. Thank you.